Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay, and in June of 2016 we were graced, ZTE graced our presence with this beautiful Axon 7. Now in today's market, you know, there's a ton of phones out there that are powerful, they're affordable, and there's also those phones where there's an argument of the previous flagship. Well, this is in fact a previous flagship from 3 years ago. But this flagship still flies higher above several other phones that are on today's market. Now keep in mind, this has a Snapdragon 820 with 4 gigs of RAM, but it's from 2016. Okay? Now this display is 5.5, 1440 by 2560. Beautiful. So in today's market, some would laugh at the point of a person saying, hey, you know, you should probably try the Axon 7. This is how you can get a taste of honey. You know, you can get a taste of sweetness that you might have missed if you felt like some of these phones were overpriced. When in fact, this phone was never overpriced. It was competitively priced. It still hit way above its class, and it still didn't get as much love as it should have. Well, here we are in 2019, folks. You can actually find this phone. There's a lot of pre-owned ones out there, and there's a lot of open box ones out there, basically used for about 100 to 175 bucks. You in fact, folks, will never ever get the stereo sound from any other phone. I've tested this phone against several other phones, and yes, there are phones that are louder at times. I've displayed that. The Galaxy S9 was a little bit louder, but a lot of phones don't have the full, rich, punchy sound that you get from the Axon 7. This was one of their highest selling points, the stereo speakers. So in today's world, how do you use a phone like this? So this is the original Axon 7 from 2016, folks. Believe it or not, this is the exact same phone. We're in August of 2019. Yes, I do use this phone. Sometimes this is like my weekend warrior. And this is how it has to be for me, because I want to keep this in pristine condition. In the event that there's an Axon 11 or whatever, you want to be able to compare it to where it came from, the original source of what. And I say the original source is because this is the phone that everybody wanted a follow-up to. All of us wanted a follow-up to this phone. And maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't. Reality is, this phone is worth buying in 2019. So if you just talk about what's happening in 2019, you might say, Jay, how can you recommend a phone from 2016? Easy. And let's be clear on some things. Let's fact check some things. It doesn't have the latest Android software. It has Oreo. Okay? I even did a video on how to add Oreo on here manually. And I'm not even the type of person that does a lot of tutorials, but I've got a video out. I'll try to go ahead and link it down below. I've done follow-ups on this phone. I did a 3-year follow-up on it a while back, and the phone is still good. Now, it doesn't have the latest operating system. The cameras are still extremely usable, front and rear. If you remember, this used to be one of my phones of choice for vlogging before the HTC U11. This phone right here got a lot of shine time on my channel, and a lot of you guys loved it. You said, man, that's crystal clear. But remember, we're talking about 2016, folks, at the time of release. And you look at this build quality. To me, this build quality is more solid. Now, it does live in the official Axon case. Obviously, it's a little faded on the bottom down there, but it does live in this case for protection. This is like an otter box, pretty much. It's a beautiful case. But this phone right here is still worthy to compete. I would put this phone up against any flagship, and while it may not win the battle, it might win the war, and there's a huge difference. So questions about some things about you might ask, well, Jay, again, how can I use this phone if it's got outdated software? Look at me. Even though it's not getting any security patch updates, nothing, it still runs like a champ. And I personally use this launcher on here. I use this launcher on here because I'm not a fan of the Me Favor UI. I'm not a fan of it. I've never been a fan of it. And I've made that publicly known to ZTE. Like, yo, you got to do something about this UI. I don't know why it's like that, son. But this is something that I change. I immediately change the UI on here. I immediately do it. I do it immediately, and I put my favorite launcher on here, which is Pix Launcher. I've said it 1,000 times. PIX Launcher. It's still in beta. It's been in beta for like a year. Then working out bugs. Hey, I'm using it. I love it. The icon pack is Ortis. It's $1 in the Play Store. I bought that. This is how I'm able to use this. And I've purchased a lot of different icon packs, but this is the one that actually appeals to me the most. And I really like the setup. Now, as far as wallpapers go, I just have one of the default wallpapers on here. And I'll show you some. This is from I call her a photographer. She doesn't think she doesn't like to say she's a photographer, but it's from Danielle. She's somebody that I linked up with HTC, and she definitely is a pro at taking photos. That is a real photo she took with her camera. It was a Sony camera that she took, but there's plenty of different wallpapers you can put on here to make this screen really pop like it really should. There's a lot of different wallpapers to really see the Amoled display. Yes, Amoled display. We're talking about 2016, folks. This Amoled display is absolutely great. I don't shake a leg at it. I'm totally happy with it. And I'm telling you, man, a phone like this, if you're indecisive about buying one of the current flagships, you can always fall back on some of the flagships from 2 to 3 years ago. And before you guys say, oh, Android phones don't get updated, Apple phones get updated, that's the obvious. You're punching the elephant in the head. But we're talking about just solid smartphones that will stand this test of time, that offer some things that current phones just don't offer. And a lot of people like this for the 16:9 ratio, which is fine to me. Now, you guys always ask, every time I bring my phone out, you always ask, well, how did you get on-screen buttons? This is a developer edition. I've said it a million times, meaning this is probably was going to be a way that they went, but they changed it. And down here on the bottom is where the hard buttons would be. So the one that you get probably will not have on-screen buttons, folks. Keep that in mind. But you'll get more screen real estate. You know what I'm saying? So your buttons will be down in this little area down here, because this is where my buttons would normally be, but they're disabled. So that's the only difference in that. But other than that, folks, if you are a person who likes media consumption, you will enjoy this phone. You know how I get down. This isn't a selling point. I'm not trying to push you. There's no kind of perks or anything coming. No commission for me. I'm not providing any links. I'm just reminding you of greatness. And back in 2016, I was stunned at the tech world when this phone got some love, but then it didn't get love. You know what I'm saying? It's like a partial love. We want to give you some love, but we're going to talk about things that you did bad. It's kind of a silly thing, but this hardware, to me, is still better than a lot of today's phones and hardware, because if I drop this from the back, it might get scratched and dented, but it will not shatter. That's a huge plus. It will not shatter. Now, performance on here is with the Snapdragon 820. It's great, man. I'm kind of just scrolling through, but there are a ton of things. I've played games on here. In my review, my follow review, man, I think I talked about a lot of things, but this phone definitely is a phone that I would recommend to people, even in 2019, man. Heading into, because I'm looking at today's market. And if you could grab a phone like this with true stereo speakers, if that's important to you, because everybody wants stereo speakers now. Some would say, oh, there'll be those people out there that say, oh, it's outdated design, yada, yada, yada. This still looks better than a ton of phones that are on the market. No joke. No joke. And remember, it has a 20 megapixel camera on the back. It's got that rear-mounted fingerprint reader. That's a huge plus. Huge plus. This is something that can't be overlooked. Shoots in 4K. The front cameras are 8 megapixel. The Dolby Atmos is what sells it for me, and in the performance of this phone. And now it does have a headphone jack, and it's got a really nice headphone jack. You will definitely enjoy when you plug into this phone, folks. The DAC is 32-bit audio. Huh? Come on, son. Come on now. You got to give credit where credit is due. You have to. There's no getting around it. No getting around it. So I'm going to get out of here, man. Want to give you a follow-up. You know what I'm saying? The cameras are still boss. Do they stand next to a lot of the phones today? Well, most people today are just doing social media. They're not doing, nothing major. So, these cameras are more than doable. Video recording, social media. This is probably like a $150 phone right now, or a $99 phone. It's totally worth it, folks. I kid you not. I wouldn't lie to you. It's totally on point. And as long as you can get a nice protective case for it, keep it in pristine condition. Now, there is the Axon 7 Mini as well. The Mini, there's a ton of those out there. Some of those you can find the Minis brand new. People are listing them brand new online. Look on Amazon, but predominantly look on eBay. You'll find a ton of these on eBay, folks, and you will be surprised at what you can get this version for. It's incredible. This is totally worth picking up. Just like I brought you the Axon M, the return of the Axon M. The ZTE Axon 7 is a killer phone. Will we see another one? Only time will tell. But I tell you what, the Axon 7 is still a worthy contender with today's market. And you can rest assured, if something does replace this, it's going to be a beast. It has to be. They have to bring it. They're going to have to come forward with today's market. But I still like the Axon 7. I think it's more than capable to compete with today's phones. So how is ZTE going to top themselves from this? Anyway, it's your man Jay. If you're worried about battery life, my battery life is still kicking. It still charges to 100%. I can still get about 5.5 hours, 6 hours of screen on time. And I think that's great for that 3250 milliamp hour battery. I am out of here, folks. Take care.